And welcome in. John Chomby with you, what's happening, and a chance to talk to our manager, Craig Counsell, Brian Flaherty, the bench coach, and Coach Dustin Kelly. Thanks for being here, everybody. Cubs not in his game 2, and we have so many good and serious things to get into, but first things first, nice to see you. How was your off-season?
It's been going great. Great to see you, John.
Yeah.
See you on TV a lot.
Well, here and there. Flash, what's happening?
Not a ton. Happy to be back, and I found out John does MLB The Show this offseason, so that was a first.
Wearing you out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Flash, just to be clear how this thing works is that as you're speaking, you're going to need to keep the mic right there. It's not going to work.
Thanks, John.
Yep. DK, how about you?
Doing good. It's similar to Flash. I hear your voice every day. I got 3 boys that play movie The Show, and it never goes away.
My first reaction when I get that is I want to apologize because it's got to be so annoying. I mean, you've heard my voice probably longer than. I mean, back in the day, I gave you a bottle opener at one point that had a call on it, and that had to annoy you.
Yeah, when you were working with the Marlins,
right?
The famous call, and they had a giveaway with like a bottle opener, beer bottle opener.
Yeah.
Every time I opened a beer, I heard John's voice.
Hey, all right, so we got a lot of stuff to get. We're going to take questions, and we'll get into review a little bit of last year, look forward to this year. But first things first, you have a new number. You gave Kyle Tucker number 30, and you chose number 11. Can you tell the people why you chose number 11?
Yeah, I chose number 11. It was Jim Leland. That was my first manager. It was actually fun talking to Ryan Dempster on stage last night, and yeah, he told a story about you need 11 wins to win the World Series if you win the division. And I really remember Jim Leland telling 97 Marlins that exact same thing. Is like, you need 11 wins to win the World Series. It's the same number on the back of my jersey. So I told everybody last night I'm hoping to use that speech a little bit later in the month of September.
Yes, I like that. Flash, what was year 1 like working with Craig Counsell?
It was great. I obviously, coming over here, you heard a ton of stuff about him as a person, coach. I live in South Florida, so he's obviously mentioned his name there, and it goes a long way. But just to be around him on it every day, see the way he interacts with the players, he connects with people in the building, just in a special way. And yeah, it was really good.
But he's an instigator, right? I mean, in a way that most people don't realize, and I would bet you didn't realize until you had to start working with him.
Yeah, he definitely, he puts on a front, but he's got a...
Don't let the witness face fool you. Yeah, he likes to stir it up.
Yeah, for sure.
DK, did he give you a hard time last year?
Sneaky funny.
Sneaky funny?
He's got incredible timing. That's one thing I will say. There's incredible timing with the jokes, and there's jabs in there, and keeps it light within the coaching staff. It's a ton of fun.
All right, we got a lot of stuff.
We got a lot of material this spring too. There's some like I enjoy the material for like when we're away from each other. There's the material just builds up and builds up and builds up, and then waiting for the right moment for that material that's comedy, right?
That's right, and then you just ride the wave.
Yes.
And when are you going to drop the material that you garnered? Yeah, okay. We were just talking with Jed and Carter. I know this is probably an aggravating topic, but it's also one that I'm curious, DK, your mindset. The way the field played last year. I mean, I'll get you on this because when I would ask you, what are some of the things that maybe surprised you a little bit? But first, DK, in terms of for hitters, mentally, what was the challenge like last year when the park played just so aggressively pro-pitcher? Those guys were saying 29th in park effect as it related to hitters, and you're tattooing balls at batting practice and in the game, you're getting no results. So you got to be, forget about teaching. There's also a pop psychologist part of it where you got to stay with good process.
Yeah, it's a big part of like the psychology. I think at the beginning we try not to make too much of it, hoping that it would turn, and like we don't want to put negative thoughts in our guys' head or we have to really change what they do at the plate. We're trying to like, hey, here's your approach. This is what you're really good at. Continue to do that every day. But I think like by the end of August, guys are like, this is not going to change. So there's a lot of pep talks and saying, hey, we're going to continue to go, and you know, we try not to put too much of it, but it was real. I mean, when you look back at it at the end of the year and look back, it's like, hey, that was a real thing and it was a challenge. I thought our guys handled it well. I thought our staff handled it really well. But hopefully we get some more win days going out next year.
Flash, tell me a little bit about being a bench coach and some of the stuff that you would handle, because, I mean, looking at some of the defensive moves that you guys would make, you'd be right in the middle of that. Talk to me a little bit about some of the stuff as last year went on and feeling comfortable and trying to impact the game as a bench coach.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of filling in the cracks. You know, I think in certain different areas, whether it be infield, whether it be talking with Dustin, whether it be talking with players, obviously with Counts. You know, not one specific area, but you try to, you know, have a good pulse of what's going on and filling in certain areas and making sure things aren't sliding through that, you know, should be addressed.
One of the topics that we just touched on was the park effect. That's funny because you played at Wrigley a ton, you managed at Wrigley a ton, but even though it played in the overall in a certain way, you were just talking about how different it could be. The wind could be blowing in so many different directions, and every day can be different.
I think what's important for us, like what I learned from last year, is whatever the weather conditions are, we have to really embrace it. So we know the weather conditions are going to be different, or we don't know what they're going to be, but we've experienced them and our players have experienced them. So I think embracing, look, the wind's blowing in today, you know what that means. We may have to do things a little differently, and as a hitter, you may, as an offensive player, you may have to do things a little differently. I think we have to use that to our advantage versus the other team. You know, obviously it's going to be hard to hit home runs, but can we be a little better mentally than the other team because of that? Or can we be a little ahead of it strategically because we know what's going to happen? So that's what that's going to be a thing we talk about in spring training for sure, is just to embrace Wrigley. Like the difficulties of it, the advantages of it, really embrace it.
Dustin, last year you had two young guys in Bush and PCA that put together really nice years. Super impressive. How proud were you, especially with some of the adversity that PCA had to fight through initially, but those two guys delivered seasons that for first-year players were quite impressive.
Yeah, I think with PCA, we knew that he could hit. We knew he could play defense. We hoped he was going to hit early. He didn't. But you watch how much work these guys put in the off season, in the cages before the game, and you just hope that translates to the game. And Pete just stuck with it, and he ended up having a great second half of the year. And you know, you're just so happy for him because you watch day to day what they do and how they impact the team and how they ultimately help us win.
If you could break down PCA when it wasn't going well and then when it went well, and just give me like 2 bullet points. Before he wasn't going with the high leg kick, and then when it went well, he was. Before he was swinging at a lot of pitches outside the zone, and then he didn't. What would be your bullet points in terms of when it wasn't going well, and then when it went well for Pete Crow Armstrong?
The game was just moving really fast for him. He just wasn't able to slow it down. And then once he was able to kind of calm down, he got his footing, he understood that, hey, I'm here, I'm going to play, I'm going to hit in this 9-hole, and I'm going to embrace it, and this is my spot. He really was able to slow it down and be really productive.
Flash, what are some of the questions that Counts asks you in the middle of the game, and what are some of the conversations that you're having consistently?
A lot of ridiculous ones that I can't say on here right now.
I love that. So now when we show them on camera, you have a pretty good idea of what's happening. What's some of the stuff you're doing?
You know, like certain offensive strategies at times, you know, who to pinch hit, start runners to get to, a lot of the offensive side. Kind of as like a third guy outside of the pitching people on the pitching side, but, you know, it could be anything. I think just things bouncing off. Like you said, do you like this guy off this guy later in the game? Hey, do you think we can run on this guy? Infield positioning, hey, you think we should be playing in, playing back? and just kind of hear him think through it is almost as important as sometimes even giving your opinion. So, yeah.
Batting order, I want to ask you about this because last year was such a weird season. Because the other part about the way that the field played is that the Cubs raked in April, which is notoriously not a particularly good hitter's month at Wrigley. But once it stunk into like 3 month stretch where the team wasn't scoring, how do you address batting order and what you're gonna do? Because I feel like for fans a lot of times, they want to default to changing, just changing. And so tell me your process in terms of daily and the batting order, because people would get, you know, you're not scoring, you're not scoring, you're not scoring, and they're doing, why is he still hitting second? Why is he still hitting fifth? Can you give me, just in the macro, how you look at it?
I think the macro is just get your best hitters as many at bats as you can, and then some little things fall on, like, you know, left-handed and right-handed hitters. You try to kind of space them out just for late in the game. Other teams bring in relievers specifically that are really good at getting either like Seiya and Miguel Amaya and out, and versus maybe have a tougher time getting Michael Busch and Kyle Tucker out. So you try to space those guys out a little bit. But I think sometimes when we make changes in the order, it's really a psychological thing more than a like this is going to be the difference. The team's going to play better. So it's sometimes change is it's just different, right? We just want something different that makes us think we're starting fresh and starting new. So when you're making changes, just a little bit of different perspective is really what you're hoping for. But you're putting the same hitter in the box, right? So you still know that like Kyle Tucker's a really good hitter. Like if he's in a slump, I'm not dropping him down to 7th in the lineup because he's still our best hitter no matter what, right?
Yeah, the process doesn't change. Like that's one of the things that gets hard is whether it's a closer who keeps giving up runs after it happens 4 straight times, and you come to the park the next day, and assuming he's rested, and I say to you, who gives you your best chance to get your last 3 outs? It's still the guy that more than likely gave up those runs. In respect, wherever Tuck's going to end up hitting, I think that's one of the disconnects, right? That ends up happening. Not him isn't a process.
Yeah, and I understand it.
Absolutely, I understand.
We're frustrated by failure. When we don't win, we get frustrated. We don't hit, we get frustrated. We don't pitch, right? But you know, I think these guys do have long histories, and we acquire them for that, and we trust them for that. And 162 games is meant. That's the beauty of baseball. The beauty of baseball is 162 games is a roller coaster, and it's like a soap opera. It's like a soap opera for sports fans. That's what I think baseball season is. It's a long, winding season with lots of drama, and part of the manager's job is to somewhat like shrink the drama a little bit and try to smooth it out a little bit. And I think some consistency for the players and kind of your decision making is important.
Flash, speaking of managers, your dad, long time college coach, and he watches all the time. He likes to think the game. Last year he came on the road, and it was a great back and forth. Cubs and the Dodgers in LA. And the Cubs ended up winning the game, I'm pretty sure. And at the end of the game, you see your dad. And what was the first thing he said to you?
Why didn't you pick over again with Ohtani?
That's just dad's, right?
He's critical. He's critical of me, Counts, everyone around. He lets
It's great. He's our best critic. It's so great. I was like after the game, if we had like a tough decision, I'll say, "Well, what'd your dad say?" You know.
Do you really? That's great. I mean, you won the game because Ohtani had stolen a base, and they picked once, but then didn't go back over. So Ryan says to Dad at the end of the game, "What do you got for me?" I thought you should have picked over on Ohtani one more time. That's the feedback. What type of impact did he have on you as a player and now as a coach?
A ton. I think just having a father that was involved in baseball and just being around it. he's the reason why I grew up liking it. And honestly, you joke about the baseball stuff, but he's honestly just there for support more than anything else. So it's cool to have him to talk to.
DK, let's talk about the year statistics he had last year, because now we're looking at, if you go basically August 1st of 2023, this guy's been one of the top 10, 12 hitters in all of baseball. It's been really impressive.
Really impressive, and doesn't get nearly enough credit that he deserves. Just how consistent he's been, and like you said, you mentioned those dates, and you could stack those up with some of the best hitters in all of baseball, and he's right there in the mix with them. It's quiet, it's not flashy, but when he's in there, it is really, really good.
How hard is it to communicate with Seiya and Shota, and how did that develop as the year went on? I know, it's not fair to do that. Obviously, both guys, their native language is Japanese, and I guess maybe putting them together isn't fair because it's probably different for your interaction with each of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think pitchers and position players are like different humans almost. They're completely different the way they're just their days are wired, their schedules are wired. So somebody like Shota is on a, it's basically it's your pitching day, and then it's your recovery day, and then it's your bullpen day, and that's how a pitcher's schedule works. So we kind of communicate around that. His bullpen day is a big day, and obviously the game day is a big day, and the rest of the days are about trying to recover to those days. So we speak a lot about recovery with starting pitchers, and then with Seiya, it's really it's a daily thing with our position players that are playing every day of just checking in on health, because the difficult thing for position players is you get kind of dinged up or injured a little bit, and they just don't go away in baseball. So they just linger, and eventually they affect performance. And I think we saw that at the guys. I think Dansby's a good example of that last year at some point. So you try to have a daily conversation, and then part of the daily conversation is having some fun and joking around and laughing a little bit.
First to you in the Flash, Dansby Swanson. Okay, so you managed against him, you watched him, but now that you watch him with your eyes every day, defensively, is it better than you thought maybe?
Well, I love watching great infield defenders, and tried to play infield, and so Dansby is just unique in how he does it. He's so good, at this little thing of making a ball exchange, and then when he's in an awkward position, it's not that easy to do. Getting the ball from his glove to his hand and making an accurate throw, and it's part of the game that just goes boom boom, and we almost never see it. But Dansby does it as well as any player that I've ever seen. And so it's not the diving plays or the super acrobatic plays, but he somehow catches a ball, and then the ball's in his hand, and it's on the way to first base, and the guy's out by boom boom, and you're like, that was really hard, and Dansby made it look really easy. And that's greatness to me. When you make something really hard look easy, that's greatness.
Flash, you played against and with a lot of, the Dansby Swanson sensational on defense. Played with and against a ton, watched a ton of great defenders. What is it that makes Swanson so special?
Yeah, I mean, Count's hit on it, outside of, the obviously physical stuff, and it's the way he sees the game. He's coming off the field after innings just with a high level question or critique of something that happened, and he sees the third baseman so well, sees the second baseman so well, sees the field so well, and he's basically having an extra coach out there.
Well, Flash thinks it's because he went to Vanderbilt, and that's where great shortstops are born. Yes, that is true. Flash played shortstop at Vanderbilt, and then Dansby played shortstop at Vanderbilt.
DK, another guy to talk about last year that had, after a bumpy start, maybe the first one, which was Ian Happ, and he ended up putting together a really, really productive season. And obviously the longest tenured guy on this team. What was the secret to his success last year, and what do you want to see him continue?
Counts touched on it earlier, track record. right? I think you know that these guys, everybody goes through the roller coaster at some point. Ian kind of went through it at the beginning, but his roller coaster kind of straightened out and it got going really fast. He's really consistent. The back of the baseball card will tell you that. And he shows up every day with a great routine. He knows what he's going to do. He prepares as good as anybody. And he knows these pitchers. He knows this league. And he goes out there and shows up and plays every day really hard.
Last year at the end of the year, there was a special moment. A guy who's not here anymore, but I know as the a soft place in your heart, all of our hearts, Kyle Hendricks. And at the end of the season, Kyle turned down the Angels, but he had that amazing performance in his final start as a Cub where he pitched exactly the way you remember Kyle Hendricks. But tell me about the interaction in getting him out of the game and deciding to tell Tommy that he was going to go take him out because of their long history and relationship. And when did you decide that?
Yeah, I mean, so that was the day. Unfortunately, we had been eliminated already. So because of that, to me, the day was about Kyle, and it was. I went into that day like, how can I make this a great day for Kyle, and then hopefully a great day for the fans. And so, I was really nervous that day. Because I wanted it to go so well for Kyle, because I thought we could have a really special moment, and it could be a really special day at Wrigley. So the idea about Tommy taking him out, I decided that what was most stressful for me was I wanted it to end so well for Kyle. So once we got through 5, I'm like, he's doing great. I want to win, but I can't. Should I take him out? Because we had a good standing ovation here. And then we got through 6. I'm like, oh God, should I take him out? Because it's going so great, and he's got 6 zeros up there. I'm like, and everybody's like, one more. I'm like, one more? Okay, one more. And then, so I said, let's just put him in for one hitter, and when he gets that hitter out, we'll take him out. And he wanted it to go the whole game, but I'm like, we got a great story right here. We got a great ending. Let's take the great ending. And I thought it went great, and it was fun for all of us, fans, coaches, players, to be a part of that day. It was a really cool day, and everybody's tenure ends, and Kyle's ended the right way.
By the way, everybody, you just got to see it. Old Stone Face here. You saw the emotion. You wonder what's inside the noggin sometimes. It's happening in there, but it's just normally. Yeah, you just got it. You like getting to know him, by the way, didn't you? He's an interesting cat.
Yeah,
Smart, thoughtful.
Yeah, you learned right away. We have this fun thing we do in spring training where we have a young player and an old player kind of meet the team every day. We talk we ask random questions to the guys. And right away, when we had Kyle up there, what was so interesting is that usually guys just ask silly questions. And then when the team had a chance to ask Kyle questions, everybody asked him very baseball specific questions. It's like, how do you do? The players are so admire the way he did his job, and everybody wants to do their job like Kyle does it, but you can't. He is at another level, right? The way he did his job. So that you sense it from the players. You sense the admiration about the mental strength that he does his job with. That was really fun to see the players' admiration.